Well, that's what we're discussing this morning, that, will I say policy somersaults now? Well, Mr. Additional will confirm if that will be a correct way to caption it. He's here in the studio with us, and he's the President, Special Advisor on Media and Publicity. Mr. Femi Additional, welcome to Sunrise Daily this morning.
Good morning. Well, if it's a somersault forward, it's a good one.
Is it really a somersault forward? Look at how the leadership, and I find this really interesting.
I saw it, I laughed.
He can be booby traps next president, extends PI implementation by 18 months.
Well, I laughed when I saw that headline, but where I fault it is that the 18 months is just a proposal. It has not been approved. National Assembly may say 6 months, it may say 3 months, and it may say 2 years. So nobody should conclude that it's 18 months.
But this is the proposal of the president.
Yes, it's a proposal, and the proposal is what it is.
The proposal of the president is to booby trap the next government.
No. I'm sure that was not the intention. The intention was also stated. The timing is not right. It will exacerbate the hardship of the people, and the president cares. He genuinely cares.
Interestingly,
I can tell you that.
Just yesterday, 2 days ago, I think there was a meeting with the Senate president at the National Assembly with the, I'm trying to remember, the Minister of State for Petroleum. I think GMD of an MPC was there. The Minister of Finance was also there.
Yes.
And there was something about the timing of this particular decision to remove fuel subsidy. I thought I heard the Minister of Finance say something about the timing is also not right politically.
No, politically, no. I heard her, I read her, I didn't hear politically. You see, politics is a part of our lives, but elections will just be one event in the life of the country. When elections come, they go. The country continues. This fuel subsidy, whether it stays or goes, is going to have serious impact on the economy.
Because I heard the Minister of State deny that politics has nothing to do with it.
No,
but Nigerians are not exactly naive when it comes to these matters. We also know that this is a pre-election year. 2023 is a year of decision.
Yes.
And it would seem that there are concerns as to whether or not the APC will be a valid party if it were to remove fuel subsidy in a pre-election year.
Well, all over the world, you are careful what you do in a pre-election year. It doesn't matter. We saw what happened in America. We saw certain things that happened in the pre-election year, and the impact those things had on the election is a valid thing. But is this done because of elections next year? No. It is done because, as the minister said, the timing is not auspicious. Inflation is still high. In the past 8 months, we saw inflation reducing, but the last month it went up again. So the timing is not auspicious. And then further consultations need to happen between all the stakeholders. We're in a democracy. Government is not the only thing in the country. It must carry on every stakeholder in reaching certain decisions that impact on the polity and on the lives of the people. So consultations go on. There will have to be palliatives and how to ameliorate the situation for Nigerians.
I'm sure there'll be questions as to how we can, whether or not we'll be able to afford this fuel subsidy, and we'll come to that shortly. But I'd like to take you through some of the to how we got here and why, if people say this is a policy somersault or a policy flip-flop, that it doesn't seem like this government has been very clear-footed in terms of what it wants to do with fuel subsidy. The president before now had maintained that there was no fuel subsidy. I do not know whether the stance of the president has changed on that, has it?
Well, over the years, things have changed. What you said was about 2016, 2017, and the president should know because he was oil minister for 3.5 years. What he said was that he didn't quite understand what they meant by subsidy when they talk of it. But you know that has mutated over the years. Just on Monday, I think it was the MD of the of the midstream petroleum company that was telling us of how much petrol lands in Nigeria now. Nigeria is going to be paying about 100 and 305 naira per liter as a subsidy. So subsidy is well and alive with us now. Over the years, there were issues as to whether there was indeed a subsidy, because we had a measure of refining done locally and we had a measure of products being imported. Now we import wholesale. So it is clear that this is the landing cost, this is the pump price, therefore the bridge is the subsidy.
Indeed. But we've also seen how within the lifespan of this administration, there have been fuel hikes, fuel price hikes. The one I really remember now was when it was, I think, at 145 and eventually went to 165. And at every of those points, the NNPC was telling us at that time that the landing, I think the pump price of fuel was sufficient to cover not just the landing cost, but even to include a small profit. So at that time, they were saying that they had removed subsidy, to the point where we even heard that no provision for subsidies had been made in any of the budgets because the plan was to take away subsidies.
But that was not the reality, because it responds to fluctuating oil prices. And for years, oil prices have been fluctuating globally for one reason or the other, particularly due to COVID since 2019. We saw it crash as low as $30 per barrel and all that. Now it has gone up, it's around $80-something per barrel now. So fuel prices will always respond to the prices of oil in the international
So that's what everyone knew. But then what we assumed at that point was that the NNPC was trying to take advantage of the low prices to introduce the removal of subsidy. It didn't look like it could follow through with the plans. Was it that they didn't get the support of the president in that regard? The
president had always been against anything that would bring hardship to the people. I'll tell you something. In the early days of the administration in the first time in 2015, a proposal came to Federal Executive Council meeting that the meeting was considering cost-saving measures. And the proposal came that the civil service or civil and public service could be cut by about half, and Nigeria will still continue to survive, and the civil service and public service will continue to work well. And the president said, no, if it depended on him, not one person will lose his job. He could have accepted the proposal. It was just months into the administration. Elections were far away. He could have accepted it. But because he's human and humane, he didn't. He didn't accept that proposal.
So the question is, at what cost is this decision coming? Because certainly there will be consequences for this decision.
There are a lot.
The financial consequences are where a lot of people are asking whether or not we'll be able to survive as a country.
Fine. Head or tail, Nigeria will have to pay a price. It's either we pay the price for the removal in consonance and in conjunction with the understanding of the people. But if that will not come, the other cost is that borrowings may continue, and things may be difficult fiscally with both the states and the federal government. You know how much could have been saved if the subsidy was removed and how it could have been diverted to other areas and spheres of national life. But if we do not go that way now, and I agree that it may not be auspicious to go that way, then we have to pay a price.
Let me flip this to my colleagues in Lagos. Gentlemen.
Yeah, Mr. Additional, in your opening, you said that the president was oil minister for 3 years. He didn't understand what subsidy was and things like that. So what about now? Does he understand it now?
It's clear. I said it as part of my response. At a certain time in this country, because some refineries were working, later they worked marginally, later they stopped working. So you couldn't decide what it cost the country to really supply fuel to the people. But after some time, it became apparent because importation became wholesale, 100%. And therefore, you also knew that there was subsidy.
So if they knew that there was subsidy, how come it's because the budget is not done in 1, 2, or 3 months? It takes months planning. Government sat down, experts, they poured through it, they made proposals, there were projections last year for this year. It got to the National Assembly, it was passed, the president signed it into law, they signed the PIA, they all went through all those things. They knew that this is what was going to happen. So how come at this point, then we hear, oh, well, this is going to happen? Didn't they see all this at that time? Because it's just rather confusing for policy analysts, even experts, investors. They all look and see, it's just confusing for a lot of people.
No, there's no confusion. The finance minister already explained it. The PIA, when it was passed in August last year, embedded in it is that 6 months after the signing of that legislation, there will be full deregulation of the oil industry. Therefore, when the budget was being prepared, it envisaged that by June, July, there will be no need for anything to bridge the cost of petroleum again until this policy reversal. So the law, it was the law that accommodated it.
Incidentally, that law was sent to the National Assembly by the president in September 2020, and it was clear that, subsidy was going to be removed. And that's ironic because you have said, in fact, the Senate president has said the president did not order or ask for the removal of subsidy. But it was in that bill, which we now call the PIA, that the president sent. So how did that happen, that the president, it's an executive bill at that point, that something the president did not want was included in a bill that the president himself sent to the National Assembly, which has now become law?
That bill was a 20-year-old bill. 20-year-old bill. Whether it was sent in the original form and shape, I do not know. But it's a 20-year-old bill. So all governments, past and present, had always envisaged a time when subsidy would not be paid again. It's not just this government. It had always been there. I listened to General Abdulsalami Abubakar last week when he said if the subsidy was removed, there would be riots akin to the NSAS riots and all that. But I recall that General Abdulsalami himself adjusted the price of petroleum as head of state. So that shows you that all governments had always realized that the country could not continue with the price regimen for petrol as it is. So that provision in the bill then had always been there. And it just became law in August last year.
Okay, I hope, it sounds as though you're saying that this government, or at least the presidency, the executive, did not look through that bill to say, oh, wait a minute, President, this is something you don't like in the bill. Should we take it out or not? But I know the tricky situation that the government is in, because whichever way this swings, really, the government will most likely still receive flaks. If you had removed it, you definitely have people saying, why did you remove it? Why don't you know that we're suffering? Now that you have kept it, you still receive flaks anyway. So for the president, do you think maybe he'll be unhappy that he didn't end this thing that he called a fraud before leaving office based on that proposal? Would he be happy that he didn't end this fraud before leaving office?
The president would love to do whatever is good for the country. If the subsidy could be removed in a way that will have a human face, he will gladly do it. He would love to do it. But if it can't be done in a way that it will not worsen the plight of the people, no, then he wouldn't want to do it. He wouldn't want to do it. But government is a continuum. If this government does not do it, another government could do it. And what those who are saying is political, what makes them think that the next government will not be an APC government? From all indications, the next government could also be an APC government. So would APC be laying booby traps for itself? Government is a continuum. And sometime in the life of this country is either that subsidy is removed or our refineries are reactivated and they begin to work, plus other refineries like the Dangote refinery and the modular refineries, and then we don't need that bridge in petroleum prices again. But definitely something has to happen, either under this administration or another one.
So when you say the next government could be an APC government, well, you're a journalist, you know how we can easily, how anyone is going to receive that. So perhaps there is some 50-50 chance that we may not come back. Anyway, I'll leave that to the politicians. But you see, the issue...
Well, I spoke in English.
Let's just keep it there. Let's just keep it there, Mr. Adishino. But, and I'm sure that as a journalist, you are also very, very concerned about the fact that we've been talking about these whole refineries things for like donkey years, and we seem to be recycling the same issues. Government in, government out. We want to remove, we can't remove. It's good for Nigeria to remove. OPS is saying it's good for Nigeria. Labour is saying it's not. Labour is not even saying we cannot remove. It just says let the refineries work. It's almost 8 years, and it is part of the campaign promises of this government that the refineries would work. And here we are. Mr. Adeshino, you must be disappointed yourself.
Disappointed may not be the word, because contracts have been awarded for Port Harcourt and I think for Kaduna. And like the Minister of State for Petroleum said yesterday, Port Harcourt will kick in this year and it will begin to work to a certain percentage. And if it begins to work, it can only increase. And the other refineries will follow. When a government makes a promise, there's nothing that says that promise must be fulfilled in first year or second year. It's just to do it in the lifespan of the administration.
Which is where the problem is, Mr. Adeshino. Which is where the problem is, because it only stems a little bit more distrust. If people cannot say, okay, this is the time, government says they're going to do this, and they do this within the time that they expect that the government to say, whether the government gives the date or not, it breeds a little bit more distrust.
Well, it depends on how we see it. I remember that Minister Kachuku, when he was oil minister, had a timeline in which all the refineries will be fixed and Nigeria will satisfy local requirements of oil and begin to export. That shows you that there was a plan, there was an intention, but there are other variables that may not make it work the way it has been planned. There's nothing that says that when you make a plan, it is cast in stone, it is cast in concrete. Other variables can come in, and they came in. But then the plans are still there.
Well, this also leads now to the question of corruption. The Transparency International came up with that report, and I'm pretty sure that is something that you have seen as well, where we say that, following the reversal, no, that's not it. The 2021 Corruption Perception Index released by Transparency International shows corruption is on the increase in Nigeria. In the Corruption Perceptions Index 2021, Nigeria ranks 154 out of 180 countries and territories, falling back 5 places from the rank of 149 in 2020. How do you react to this?
Yes, I have seen that report, but my attitude to reports like that remain the same. When such things come, one, we don't need it to authenticate or validate whatever government is doing. Government is working, and anti-corruption is one of the key pillars of this administration. It was scrolling on this, your station, for almost 2 days when the EFCC came out about 2 weeks ago that it had 2,200 convictions last year alone. Last year alone. And I saw it scrolling on your station for about 2 days. That's one information out there. Now, what would you rather believe? The information from your country or the information from outside? It depends on the statistics that TI is using. But we know that in Nigeria, corruption is being fought, and we have moved forward from a time when they said that stealing was no corruption to a time that stealing is now corruption. That's one. Number two, when such reports come, if we will believe the reports, it's not an indictment of government. Rather, it's an indictment of you and me. Because we constitute the country. So if TI says Nigeria has fallen so many steps in the corruption perception index, it's not a good report for you. Neither is it for me. Us as Nigerians, we as a people.
Well, Mr. Additional, when this government was campaigning to come in, the campaign promise wasn't, you Nigerians will fight corruption for us. It was, we will fight corruption. And it was one of the pillars that this government came in on. So it's quite interesting that you now say that this is an indictment on you and I, when the government actually promised that it was going to solve the problem of corruption. But now this conversation presents us an opportunity, really, and I'm glad you said it, that, I mean, we shouldn't believe the report from outside. There should be a report from inside. And the methodology that TI used was to, give this range, 0 to 100, and get, independent sources to score countries, which is why Nigeria ranked what it ranked, 154. So for you, for the government, if you were to rank this, this current administration on corruption from 0 to 100, what would you give it?
Now, what I would like to say about fight against corruption globally is that there's no place that has succeeded in eradicating corruption. We have countries where people are executed for corruption. And the fact that they continue to execute itself shows that corruption has not been eradicated. Because if it was eradicated, executions would not continue. So it shows you that corruption is a human problem. It is a national problem everywhere. But is this administration fighting corruption? Yes, it is, because just have an indictment against you and see whether you face the law or not. But when it goes before the law, that is the last the executive has to do with it. Every other thing is with the judiciary. And you don't stampede the judiciary, you don't dictate to them. They do it as they deem fit.
So quickly, Mr.
Like
Additional,
the president said in...
Pardon me, you didn't answer the part of my question where I asked for the rating from the government, 0 to 100. Transparency has done its own.
Because that would not be quite right. No, that would not be quite right. I'm a part of this administration. I shouldn't then be rating the administration. The rating should rather come from other people. Not
people
from
have
outside
rated
now,
this government
only, like TI has done, but from Nigerians themselves.
Okay, well, TI has, given its ratings. And by the way, it was not done by people from outside the country, okay? It was given to people that are well familiar about the system here in Nigeria, from experts to those doing business. In fact, the government has had to work with one of the agencies representing TI in the country. So it's important to get a sense, because you said that this administration is fighting corruption and you're getting results. So from your perspective, how well has this government done? 0 to 100. Is it 50? Is it 30? Is it 80?
No, I will not give percentages, but I will say very well, very well. We have the statistics from the EFCC, we have from ICPC, you have the Code of Conduct Bureau, all the agencies set up to fight corruption from time to time give reports.
So very well, pardon me.
A lot is being done.
Very well in ratings is over perhaps 60, 70. So is that the score you're giving?
No, I will not give a percentage.
But you said if you can't measure it, then you can't put a finger on it. So how did you get to very well?
Yes, it is being measured, but I will not give a percentage. I would rather people outside government give that percentage.
Well, you did already. You said very well. Markwe.
Yeah, very well does not mean figure.
Well, it would seem that, I'm just asking, thankfully Twitter is back. Okay. And it's an easy poll, will I say, easy way to conduct a poll and ask people what they think about this debate around fuel subsidy. Some have said that perhaps it will be time to increase salaries and remove the fuel subsidy, so that people can better afford their transport. I do know that there was also talk around that. The Minister of Finance had told us before that they were thinking of paying transport allowance to workers to be able to afford whatever hike was going to come as a result of that. It was seen that all of that thinking, which had been, suggested to the public did not just get the assent of the president.
Now, specifically on increasing salaries, there is one, should I say, it's a proverb or illustration that the president gives in our private meetings, that a woman goes to the farm to fetch firewood. Now, after she has a heap of firewood, she wanted to carry it on her head, and it was too heavy. She couldn't carry it. Then she fetches more firewood and adds to it. If she couldn't carry what was already on ground, and then she was adding to it, how would she ever carry it? The president usually gives that in relation to increasing salaries. A lot of states have not even been able to pay the 30,000. A lot of states. Either they are in arrears or they didn't even accept to pay. So, why add more?
It is precisely because of this reason that the state governors have been angling for the removal of fuel subsidy. It would seem that their silent protest have been the loudest, so to speak, because they are the ones really bearing the brunt of this lack of removal of fuel subsidy. How is he going to be having that conversation with state governments?
Yes, in announcing a postponement, or a suspension, whichever word you prefer, of the fuel subsidy removal, it was also said that all the stakeholders will be further consulted. All the governors are key stakeholders, and their views will be sought on this.
But their views have not been sought before this decision was taken. I'm reading the front page of Leadership. I don't know why I'm stuck on that front page. It says here, decision hasty without stakeholders' input. So there has been no conversation.
Yes, but the stakeholders are so large, and you just needed to do something. It is the prerogative of government to do certain things so that there will be calm in the polity.
This is... You know, we've been discussing corruption as well, and it was seen that there is a link between what is going on with fuel subsidies and also corruption. Yeah. The Senate president, when he came out, he was the one who sparked this debate about whether the president was thinking of removing fuel subsidies or not. He said that he doesn't believe that we're currently consuming 100 million liters of petrol a day. One would have thought that that would be where we will start our investigation from. How much is Nigeria really consuming as a country which uses petrol?
Yes, that is also a challenge the president has thrown many times to those who run our oil industry. How much do we consume daily? How many trailer loads are spirited out of the country? How come there are so many petrol stations sited near the borders and all that? It's a crucial issue. And that's why I said earlier that corruption is a national problem. It's a global problem. Corruption is there. Even in countries where they execute corrupt people, corruption remains there.
You said the president has thrown it out as a challenge to the people who run that sector.
Yes.
And there has been no definitive answers. There's been nothing definitive. So far, so good. It looks like the consumption pattern has only gone up. Doesn't it speak to a lack of will to truly stem this and, you know, find out precisely how much Nigeria is consuming?
Part of that will is the removal of this subsidy. If that subsidy was removed, it's a show of will that we want to solve this problem.
But now that it is not removed, it means that there is no will.
No, the intention to remove was that there was a will in the first place. But if you have a will and what you want to do will upturn the system, throw the country into a tailspin, then you have to reconsider. You weigh it. And that is why further consultations will still happen. And like I said, either today or tomorrow or next year or 5 years or 10 years, Nigeria will have to do something about fuel subsidy.
Do we know how much this is going to cost? Yesterday, The Guardian was projecting 4.6 trillion naira in subsidies. Can you confirm that to us?
No, it's only the people in the oil industry who can confirm. But it's going to be a lot, a lot. If you also see The Guardian today, it's saying that there will be more borrowings because the country must continue to run. And therefore, you need money to run the country. So those who are complaining that there has been too much borrowing, there will be more borrowings.
Has the president really considered our options very carefully to say that this is the best decision to take?
It is not a one-man thing. You will see that it cuts across government. When the Senate president met with them on Monday, Finance Minister was there, Minister of State Petroleum was there, MD of the downstream company was there, and some other of the president's aides on oil were also there. So it shows you that it cuts across. It's not a one-man decision. It's just that the president takes the final decision. He signs off on it. And this president will not sign off on what will affect the people adversely.
What's the way forward? I mean, we will not sign off on what will affect the people adversely in the short term. I mean, because whether or not we like it, there are implications.
Oh, sure.
There will be consequences.
We have to live with the implications for now.
So is it that we leave? Is it that we have, you know? Well, I don't know. I think that I want to imagine that the president will brief the people again on the reasons for his decision.
What is this briefing? The ministers just spoke yesterday. They didn't speak for themselves. They spoke for the government.
You don't think that the president needs to talk to the
No,
people?
we have this bogey about president, come and talk to us, come and talk to us, come and talk to us. He has spoken to us.
You know why I say so? Because here we were, the ministers spoke. They've had to rescind their own talk. It was saying that they have gone back on their words.
But you heard the Minister of State yesterday.
The Senate President come out on behalf of the president saying this is what the president said. And we now saw several movements as a result of that has now brought us to where we currently are. Don't you think that looking at the implications, the severity of what the implications will be, we should be able to hear clearly from the president his thinking on this matter?
No, the Minister of State for Petroleum emerged from a meeting with the president yesterday. I had it in your preamble, it was reported. Right from that meeting with the president, he came into the press briefing. And he said, this is government position. It was not his. It was not that of the GMD. It was not that of anybody on that table yesterday. Government position. Just coming from the president. So he spoke for the president.
Okay, well, we'll see how it goes in the following days. I know that this conversation is certainly not over, but we have to thank you for coming on Sunrise Daily this morning. Mr. Femi Adesina, Special Advisor to the President on Media and Publicity. We'll take a break now. We'll be back shortly. Please stay with us.